Hello everyone, welcome to Story Vault YouTube channel. Hope you enjoy the video. What is the most scariest but still unexplained thing that you have experienced? Part 2. Story 1. I've told other unexplained stories on Reddit, but I'm not sure I've told the one about the thing my friend and I saw on the side of the road. I'll try and remember it to the best of my ability. It was about 12-ish years ago. If anyone else saw something similar, let me know. It's around 3 in the morning in rural north-central Alberta. My friend and I are driving home from a high school party in which neither of us drank or took any drugs. It's the middle of winter. In Alberta, this means it's cold outside. This night it was below -30 degrees Celsius, below -22 degrees Fahrenheit, edited to fixed temperature. The whole way home, my friend and I are chatting about the usual things. What happened at the party, the boys we liked, etc. While most teenage girls are chatty, this friend in particular was a chatterbox. Mostly I would listen and just react to whatever she said. Love friends like that. So, because she would do most of the talking and didn't require much input, I'd zone out, sometimes looking out the window. We are about 5 to 7 minutes outside of town at this point, taking the highway, probably going 75 to 90 km/h. Using an online calculator that puts us around 6-7-ish km outside of town in a sparsely wooded area with no services open in town. As we round a corner, I'm zoning out listening to my friend talk, when through the windshield, I notice glowing eyes off the side of the road, the headlights not fully hitting whatever it was. The eyes were green/yellowish. This would be normal, but these eyes are about 7 to 8 feet above the ground. At first, I think it's a hiker or someone walking back to town, but their eyes wouldn't glow, and no one is going to be walking that far from town or any houses when it's that cold and late outside. This was a town of less than 1,000 ppl. As we drive closer, this thing appears to have goat-like legs, is very heavy set, and stands on 2 feet. Its arms drop down by its side like a person's, and it appears to even have some kind of dark clothing on the top half. It had something like goat-like horns that curved but went upwards. At this point, my blood runs completely cold and I have a full-fledged instinctual freeze response, hairs standing up on the back of my neck. I remember hearing my own disembodied voice think, I shouldn't be seeing this. This is wrong. I even teared up. We pass by it relatively quickly and I can't stop thinking about what that was. My perception of time was kind of weird after that due to panic. But now the lights of town are in front of us, and I realize my friend isn't talking anymore. I turned to my friend and sheepishly said with tears still in my eyes, "Sorry, what were you saying? I must be going crazy, but I thought I saw something back there." She said, No, it's fine. I saw it too. Did it kind of look like a goat? So, she saw it too. We had no idea what it was. We both come from hunting families, and I know the easiest critique is that it was an elk or moose standing on hind legs. But the arms of an elk or deer don't just fall beside the body. They buckle outwards a bit. Regardless, it seemed human-like in its stance, and it was very heavy set. Then, you'd think, oh, it was a bear. But it had horns and curved back legs. I assume moose would be the same as an elk or deer, but I've never really seen a moose standing ambiently, typically just when they fight. Even our responses were odd. You'd think, given scary movies, you'd immediately flip out and react. Both of us kind of just got entranced and terrified for a while, blood running cold. While the friend and I don't talk anymore, we talked about it a few times in the next years we were still in contact. She continued to refer to it as the goat thing. Comments. This sounds absolutely terrifying. I'm also Canadian, from BC, and I'm aware of what the Navajo refer to as skinwalkers. I imagine the First Nations in Alberta, I'm fairly positive the largest indigenous group would be Cree in the prairies, have something very similar. BC born and resident again now, and the woods are spooky out here too. Truly it was terrifying, and in a weird way. I've come face to face with bears and been stalked by cougars, had scary encounters with real people, and my fear was not the same. Each time it was more of a head rush and thinking about how you should play the situation to survive. This time was a weird, frozen, sick feeling that is telling you that this is something entirely wrong and outside of any cognitive models that could guide you through the situation. I've wondered about how indigenous knowledge might relate to what I saw, but I generally do not speak to people about this because I seem insane or like I'm lying. I'm Salto from SK and always heard stories about Nanabozo, or Wasikshuk if Cree, growing up. My elders would say things like, don't go too far in the bush, Nanabozo will get you, or don't whistle at night. Obviously that would scare us into listening LOL, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's evil/bad. But if I saw what you saw, I'd immediately believe that's what it was. Story 2. We were playing team tag at night back in middle school. A friend and I were hiding near a bush around a tree. Suddenly something in the bush moved, and we assumed it was an animal. We threw a stick into the bush, and it came flying back out, and a dark figure about 4 feet tall ran across the field into the woods. We freaked out and ran back to our house about a half a mile away. Story 3. One of the creepiest things I ever experienced was late at night when I heard faint whispers coming from an empty room. It felt like someone was standing right behind me, breathing down my neck. I turned around, and there was absolutely no one there. The air felt heavy, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. To this day, I have no idea what it was, and it still gives me chills just thinking about it. Comments. Oh wow, that's scary. Something similar happened to me that I can't explain. It was around 1 a.m., and I was still up watching TV. I couldn't sleep. I got really into watching some sort of history documentary about the Shroud of Turin. When they zoomed up closely to the shroud, my TV started to glitch, and the picture was stuck on the shroud. The audio froze, and then I heard a man's voice saying, "Don't look," in a really unnatural deep voice. It felt like it was right behind me. I whipped my head around, and there was nobody there. I live alone since my wife passed. My daughter and grandchild comes over on occasion, but this night I was alone. I live in rural Ireland, and whilst not my first rodeo with ghosts etc., this experience felt unnatural. I don't know why. The TV went back to normal a couple of seconds after I heard, "Don't look." I managed to hunt down the documentary and combed it for these words. Still don't know where it came from. For some reason it really frightened me. I went to bed a little shaken up, if I'm honest. If I see anything about the Shroud of Turin advertised or in news articles, I get a shiver. The voice sounded extremely deep. I've never heard a voice like it. Big baritone voice. I don't know. I'm getting the shivers typing this, and I've seen some stuff in my lifetime on this earth. I've been here on this earth 7 decades. I know it doesn't sound scary, but it was the deepness of the voice that I didn't like. Especially the TV sticking and jumping on the analysis of the Turin. Yikes. Story 4. When I was a kid in 2003, I had the Nickelodeon Time Blaster alarm clock radio, which I bought from a thrift store. It was so cool but so annoying, and I didn't really listen to the radio much or need an alarm all the time at 10 years old. So I kept it unplugged on my dresser just as decoration. One night as I was trying to fall asleep, it said, "Good night, Jimmy." Clear as day, but in that very distinct 90s clock radio sound. It was right beside me too, super unplugged. I wasn't sick or overtired or anything. I've never experienced hearing voices or anything since. Being so young, I tried to pass it off as some cute Jimmy Neutron feature and like some kind of battery malfunction, but they made those clocks in like 1996. It made a lot of annoying sounds, but not like that. And my name isn't Jimmy. Story 5. I once heard loud footsteps in my apartment at 2 a.m. while I was lying in bed. Checked every room. No one was there, and all the doors were locked. The scariest part? I live on the 3rd floor with no one above me. Slept with the lights on for the next week. Comments. My guess is that were you at least partly asleep. I've had that happen a few times where I start dreaming or am almost asleep. Our brains do weird stuff when we're in that state. That's what I was thinking. Sometimes I jolt wide awake because of loud crashing-like noises, and it'll actually be really quiet in the room. I notice it happens if I'm trying to stay awake, but drift off. Story 6. I lived briefly in a rental home, which was owned by a church in a small Florida town, and which was built in 1908. Every night around 8 o'clock, I heard dragging, shuffling footsteps coming from the kitchen. If I walked into the kitchen, they would stop, and if I turned my head to look into the kitchen from the den, they would pause and continue the very moment I looked away again. This lasted for 5 minutes or so each and every night. Comments. I would be walking my dog every night at 8 p.m. Let the ghosts do their thing in peace. Story 7. I moved to a different city for university at the peak of the pandemic. I lived off campus in a suite with a couple of my friends from my hometown. Life happened, and they both ended up moving out by the end of the first semester. So I was now living alone in a very quiet neighborhood. I got off of work late one night and crawled into bed around 12 a.m. I woke up about an hour later to the sound of footsteps shuffling around in my bedroom. I opened my eyes to see a very tall man in my doorway, backlit by the streetlights, with his cell phone upright in his hand as if he was recording. When the person registered I was awake, they backed their way out of the room and started running. I followed them outside and watched them hop into the driver's seat of an empty car that had been left running before speeding down the street. I had no information to give to the police when they arrived. To this day, I have no idea who that person could have been or what they were doing in my bedroom at 1 a.m. So, that's the end of the video. Hit the like button and subscribe. Have a good day and see you in the next video.